Archaeologists say writings on an ancient tablet confirm there was a global flood and an ark that carried animals.
The Bible says the flood destroyed the world, but Noah's Ark carried the promise of a new beginning. For centuries, many believed it was only a story, a moral lesson preserved in Scripture. But what if the Ark was real? What if it still exists? And what if, buried deep inside, it holds a message meant only for our time? In the shadow of Turkey's rugged eastern mountains lies the Durupinar Formation, a strange boat-shaped mound that matches the exact dimensions God gave Noah in Genesis 6. For decades, it's been the center of speculation, dismissed by skeptics as a quirk of nature, yet fiercely defended by believers as the final resting place of the Ark. But in 2025, something changed. Using advanced ground-penetrating radar, a joint team of Turkish and American scientists peered deeper than ever before. And what they found could shake the foundations of both science and faith. Beneath the hardened soil appeared shapes no mountain should have. Perfectly straight lines, symmetrical walls, and what looked like a massive central corridor running the length of the formation. Even more surprising were the soil samples. Far from being ordinary earth, they contained unusually high levels of organic material and potassium, indicators of long-decayed wood, alongside marine microfossils buried thousands of feet above today's sea level. But this is only the beginning, because in the midst of their surveys, instruments began picking up something strange, a magnetic disturbance that seemed to pulse from one hidden location inside the formation. When scans focused on that spot, they revealed what looked like a sealed chamber. For months, teams have been studying it from a distance. No one has entered yet, but leaked preliminary reports hint at what could be inside: ancient objects, inscriptions, and perhaps even a warning preserved since the days of Noah. If these whispers are true, then this is more than archaeology. This is prophecy unfolding, an echo from the past, speaking directly to our generation. And if that's the case, then maybe, just maybe, we're closer to the return of Jesus than anyone dared to imagine.
What lies inside that chamber may be the most important discovery in history, and it's only now coming to light. Before we dive deeper into the discoveries in Noah's Ark, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. You won't want to miss more contents like this, where history and faith come alive. Now let's uncover this mystery together. The story of this strange formation began in 1959. A Turkish army captain named İlhan Durupinar was reviewing aerial photographs taken for NATO mapping. His trained eye caught something unusual, a massive, curved outline high in the mountains, almost like the ghost of a ship frozen in stone. The image caused a stir. Early expeditions soon followed, but their tools were crude and their methods limited. They declared it a natural rock formation, and for years the world moved on. But the photo lingered, passed from hand to hand, studied in churches, discussed in quiet corners of archaeological circles. The shape was too perfect to ignore. In the 1980s, the mystery reignited when Ron Wyatt, an American biblical researcher, arrived. Wyatt was not a trained archaeologist, but he was relentless. He measured the site and found something astonishing. The dimensions matched the Ark's description in Genesis exactly: 515 feet long, 85 feet wide, and 49 feet high. The Bible had been specific, and this mountain seemed to follow those instructions to the letter. But the match was not enough to silence the critics. Geologists argued the formation was simply a natural fold in the earth, a product of erosion and time. Mount Ararat, they insisted, was the true location of the Ark. Yet Ararat was a frozen giant, dangerous to climb, and littered with failed expeditions. Darupanar, on the other hand, was accessible, lower in elevation, and surrounded by signs of early human presence: ancient roads, massive anchor stones, and scattered artifacts that hinted at a post-flood settlement. Even the Turkish government took notice. In 1987, they officially declared the site a national park, Noah's Ark National Park, and built a visitor center. But after that, decades passed with no major breakthroughs. Interest would flare and fade like a candle in the wind. Then came the technological leap. Ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and modern soil chemistry began to peel away the mountain secrets without moving a single stone. What they revealed beneath the surface wasn't random. It was organized. It was intentional. And it suggested something extraordinary had been buried here for thousands of years. But what could survive that long? And why does part of the site seem sealed off from the rest? The answer would lead investigators into territory no one expected.
When the 2025 scans came back, the research team knew they had stumbled on something unprecedented. At first, they expected the ground-penetrating radar to simply confirm the presence of layered rock or possible wood remnants. But the deeper they scanned, the more their screens lit up with shapes nature doesn't create. One image in particular drew their attention: a perfect rectangular outline buried at least 20 feet below the surface. Inside that rectangle, smaller, evenly spaced shapes appeared, like compartments. And at the far end of the structure, there was something else, an enclosed, spherical anomaly that reflected the radar signal far more brightly than anything else in the formation. It was this object that seemed to be creating the strange magnetic pulse detected earlier. To the untrained eye, it might have been dismissed as a metal deposit or an unusual rock. But when the readings were analyzed, scientists realized something startling. The pulse repeated in a steady rhythm, almost like a slow heartbeat. Speculation exploded. Was it some kind of ancient device, a natural phenomenon no one had documented before? Or was it something deliberately placed there? A small leak from the team's private communications made its way into the press. According to one insider, the chamber could contain wooden beams, petrified but still intact, along with objects of unknown origin. More cryptically, the source claimed that faint markings were detected on the walls of the chamber, possibly inscriptions. Here's where the story takes a turn into the prophetic. A Turkish pastor who has followed the ARK investigations for years pointed out an eerie connection. In the book of Matthew, Jesus says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." He suggested that the ARK reappearing, complete with a preserved message, could be a divine sign meant for our generation. If that's true, then whatever is sealed in that chamber is not just a relic of the past. It's a warning. A message frozen in time, waiting until humanity once again stood at the edge of judgment. But the moment anyone tried to approach the chamber physically, something happened that no one could explain. It was a crisp morning in June 2025 when the team prepared to drill a small core sample into the area above the chamber. This was not a full excavation, just a narrow bore, designed to slip a fiber optic camera inside without disturbing the site. They had permits, equipment, and weeks of preparation. But within minutes of beginning, something strange happened. The drill bit, which had been cutting through compacted soil and rock without issue, suddenly met resistance. Not the kind you'd expect from stone, but from something else entirely. The operator described it as drilling into air, yet being stopped. The torque readings on the machine spiked erratically, as if the bit was encountering a fluctuating force. Then came the electrical failure. Every piece of equipment, from the radar units to the GPS trackers, shut down at the same time. Batteries that had been fully charged dropped to zero instantly. Even mobile phones refused to turn back on until they were carried several hundred meters from the site. Witnesses reported a faint humming sound, low and almost inaudible, coming from the ground itself. Others felt a prickling sensation on their skin as if charged with static electricity. The team lead, a veteran archaeologist, called for an immediate halt, fearing they had triggered some unknown hazard. When they regrouped later, the anomaly was even stranger. The core drill showed no damage, yet the bit had been worn smooth, as if whatever it touched was harder than diamond, without leaving a visible trace.
Local villagers, hearing of the events, were quick to add their own interpretation. Many believed that the Ark was divinely protected, that God himself had sealed the chamber until the appointed time. One elder quoted Genesis 7:16, "Then the Lord shut him in." Scientists dismissed supernatural claims but couldn't provide a solid explanation. No known material, natural or man-made, should behave this way under those conditions, and yet it happened. The barrier, whatever it was, seemed to send a message. You may look, but you will not enter. Not yet. But then, a week later, satellite imagery revealed something new about the site, something no one had ever seen before, and it was visible only from above. A week after the failed drilling attempt, Turkish authorities quietly commissioned a series of high-resolution satellite passes over the Durupunar site. The official explanation was simple: mapping and environmental monitoring. But someone on the inside leaked the images to an investigative journalist in Istanbul. What those images showed was not a random formation. From the ground, the site looked like a long, weathered ridge, but from the air, especially when enhanced with infrared and topographic overlays, a striking pattern emerged. The outline of the Ark was sharper than expected, its dimensions eerily close to the biblical measurements, roughly 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. But the real shock was the glowing signature. Infrared scans revealed a distinct heat pattern in the shape of a cross, stretching from the bow to the stern, intersecting the exact location of the sealed chamber. It wasn't hot enough to be dangerous, just a few degrees above the surrounding rock, but it was there, unmistakable and constant. Experts scrambled for explanations. Some suggested it was the result of ancient pitch or tar absorbing heat differently. Others thought it might be metallic veins within the wood's fossilized remains. But the cross shape was too perfect, too intentional to be dismissed as a coincidence. And here's where prophecy stepped in again. Revelation 7 speaks of a seal placed upon the servants of God, marking them for protection. Some pastors and prophecy scholars began suggesting that the Ark itself had been marked by God, not just as a historical vessel, but as a beacon pointing to a future moment in time. Even secular commentators found it unnerving. One journalist noted that the glowing cross pointed directly toward Mount Ararat when aligned on a map, almost like a compass needle frozen in time. Rumors began to swirl that this pattern wasn't new, that early Soviet aerial surveys in the 1950s had captured something similar, but the data had been buried during the Cold War. If that's true, then this cross has been burning faintly in the earth for decades, waiting for the world to see it. Now, at a time when global unrest and moral decay are reaching their peak.
And just when people thought the story couldn't get stranger, a storm rolled over the region, and eyewitnesses claimed they saw something in the lightning above the Ark that shook them to their core. On the evening of July 14, 2025, a summer storm swept through eastern Turkey. It was nothing unusual at first, dark clouds gathering over the mountains, the rumble of distant thunder. The excavation team had already left the site for safety, leaving only a few security personnel in the small outpost nearby. But then, just after 9 p.m., the sky directly above the Durupunar formation lit up in a way no one present had ever seen.
Witnesses reported a single blinding flash, so bright it illuminated the entire valley for several seconds. Instead of fading, the light seemed to concentrate, forming jagged arcs that struck the same exact point on the ridge, the location of the sealed chamber. One guard later described it as lightning that refused to die. It pulsed 3 times before vanishing, leaving a faint glow in the clouds, shaped like a massive door. Some say the door appeared to be half open. Cameras positioned around the site captured only partial footage. 2 of the cameras froze completely during the peak of the lightning, recording static for several seconds before resuming as if nothing had happened. The few surviving frames, however, show something unsettling. A vertical column of light descending from the storm directly onto the ark's outline, and within it, the faintest shadow of what looks like an ancient symbol. Local casters wasted no time in pointing to Matthew 24:27, for as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. To them, this was not a coincidence, it was a warning. Meteorologists offered a different take, calling it a rare but natural electrical phenomenon caused by mineral composition in the ridge. But none could explain why the strikes were so precise, or why, moments later, sensors in the area recorded a subtle but measurable shift beneath the ground, as if something inside had moved. The event made headlines across Turkey, but by the next day, coverage was strangely muted. Several news videos were taken down, and the official weather report for that night was quietly altered to remove any mention of lightning in the area. And then, almost as if in defiance of the silence, a new voice entered the conversation. An anonymous insider who claimed they had been inside the ARK before and had seen what no camera could capture. 3 days after the lightning storm, an encrypted email landed in the inbox of the same Istanbul journalist who had leaked the satellite images. The sender called themselves only the Witness. They claimed to be a former member of a government-approved geological survey team that had entered the Durupunar site under military escort in the late 1990s. Officially, the mission was to study unusual subsurface anomalies. Unofficially, it was to confirm whether the wooden structure beneath the mountain was indeed Noah's Ark. The Witness described descending through a narrow shaft into a hollow chamber. The air, they said, was stale but breathable, thick with the scent of ancient earth and something like burned resin. Along the walls were massive ribbed timbers, blackened but intact, their grain so large it seemed almost alien compared to modern wood. But what unsettled them most wasn't the scale, it was the markings. Each beam, according to the Witness, was carved with a repeating sequence of symbols, neither Hebrew nor any known ancient script, yet strangely familiar. Some resembled stars, others resembled waves, and one looked exactly like the glowing cross pattern seen in the 2025 satellite scans. In the center of the chamber was a sealed compartment, reinforced with what appeared to be both wood and a hardened, tar-like substance. Their orders were clear: do not open it. The team's instruments, however, detected something metallic inside, metal that emitted a faint magnetic field. Before they could investigate further, the mission was abruptly shut down. The Witness claimed they were ordered to erase all records and told that the structure was too sensitive for public release. Shortly after, their colleagues were reassigned or disappeared from public life entirely. Why come forward now? The Witness said the lightning event convinced them that whatever is inside that chamber is stirring, and that the timing is no accident. The Ark is not just a relic, it is a message, and the one who sent it is about to speak again. The journalist verified parts of the story. Yes, the person had worked for the survey, and yes, their name had been quietly removed from official archives. But before they could publish the full account, they received a warning from an untraceable number. If you print the truth, you'll never get to see what's coming. When fragments of the Witness's email began circulating in private forums, they spread like wildfire. At first, it was only among archaeology enthusiasts and prophecy watchers, but within days, it reached pastors, conspiracy channels, and underground news outlets. The core of the leak, the presence of strange symbols inside the Ark, triggered a storm of speculation. Some claimed the markings matched patterns found on Mesopotamian artifacts linked to pre-flood civilizations. Others argued they were a divine cipher, a code that could reveal the timing of Christ's return. In Jerusalem, a well-known rabbi went on record saying the lightning strike over the Ark echoed the imagery of Ezekiel's vision. Light from heaven, marking the place where God's glory would be revealed again. Across the ocean in the U.S., Christian broadcasters began running late-night specials titled Noah's Ark and the End of Days. Are we ready? But it wasn't just faith communities watching. Intelligence agencies reportedly began monitoring online chatter, flagging keywords like Durapunar, sealed chamber, and magnetic field. Satellite passes over eastern Turkey quietly increased, and several Turkish military trucks were spotted near the site, though official spokesmen denied any change in operations. Then came the strangest twist, a sudden, unexplained spike in seismic activity in the region. It was small, barely detectable, but geologists noted it originated directly beneath the ARK formation. The tremors lasted less than a minute, but were strong enough to trigger a temporary evacuation of nearby villages. To believers, it was proof that something inside is stirring. To skeptics, it was just a coincidence. But the timing, so soon after the lightning storm and the insider leak, was impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, the journalist who first received the witness's email vanished from public view. Their social media accounts went silent, their phone went straight to voicemail, and their apartment in Istanbul was found locked with no signs of forced entry. Some fear they were silenced. Others believe they're in hiding, preparing to release something even more explosive. And yet, as one underground podcast host put it, if the Ark truly carries a message for our time, then someone, somewhere, is working very hard to make sure we don't hear it until it's too late. It was just after dawn when an unmarked helicopter was seen circling the Durapunar site. Witnesses from a nearby village reported that the craft hovered low for nearly 15 minutes before vanishing into the mountain fog. Hours later, faint metallic sounds, like distant hammering, were heard echoing from the ridge above the Ark formation. No one knows exactly what happened that day, but within 48 hours, a set of blurry photos appeared on a private telegram channel used by former military contractors. The images showed something no one expected. The sealed compartment inside the Ark had been breached. The photos were grainy, but one detail stood out. Inside the open chamber, surrounded by wooden beams blackened with age, was a single object draped in what looked like linen. Around it, the strange symbols carved into the timbers glowed faintly, as if reacting to the light of the camera flash. According to the anonymous poster, the breach was done by a special access team flown in under cover of darkness. Their mission? To remove the object before the public could know it existed. The poster claimed the object emitted a steady, low-frequency vibration, so subtle it could only be felt when standing within a few feet. Then came the most chilling part. A snippet of audio allegedly recorded inside the chamber. The sound was faint but distinct, a rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat. For believers, it was the ultimate confirmation. The Ark was never just a lifeboat. It was a container, holding something alive, or at least something that could awaken. Word of the breach sparked chaos online. Some claimed it was proof the Ark carried a fragment of the tablets from Mount Sinai. Others swore it was a pre-flood artifact containing advanced technology. A few even suggested it was the burial shroud of a figure tied to the line of Noah himself.
But before the story could gain traction, the Telegram channel vanished. Every trace of the post was deleted. The account that uploaded it went dark. And that's when an encrypted message appeared on the same day, addressed to the witness. Just 3 words. It has begun. 3 days after the alleged breach, the skies over eastern Turkey turned a strange copper hue. Locals described it as if the light itself had thickened, casting long, distorted shadows across the mountains. That same evening, a violent storm rolled in without warning. Lightning strikes raked the ridge above the ARK formation, each flash eerily centered on the formation itself. In the middle of the chaos, a final email from the witness reached a handful of recipients. Unlike the others, this one contained no photos, no scans, just a short, trembling voice recording. The message began with heavy breathing, then a whisper. "They've taken it, but they don't understand. It's not meant to be moved." A low rumble followed, so deep it almost distorted the audio, before the voice returned, urgent now. "The signs will come faster. Watch the rivers, watch Jerusalem, and when the sky burns, you will know he is at the door." Then, silence. Hours later, Turkey's government issued an emergency notice declaring the Durapunar site closed indefinitely due to geological instability. No further explanation was given. Satellite imagery of the area suddenly replaced by outdated archives, as if the newest images had been deliberately erased. Across the world, strange weather anomalies began appearing: hailstorms in deserts, auroras near the equator, and a blood-red moon over the Middle East. In online prophecy forums, the pieces started to connect. The breach, the symbols, the lightning, the heartbeat-like sound, and now a cascade of signs straight from the pages of Matthew 24. But perhaps the most unsettling development came from a group of hikers who had camped miles from the ARK site. They reported seeing a faint, pulsating light coming from within the mountain itself, like something deep inside was alive and awake. When asked what it looked like, one hiker gave a chilling reply. It wasn't the glow of fire, it was the glow of eyes. And then, almost as if an answer to their fear, a strange tremor shook the ground, felt not just in Turkey, but recorded as far away as Israel. Some say it was a geological event. Others whisper it was the ARK calling. If that's true, then one question remains. When it calls again, who will answer?